Now, analysis actually begins from the introduction of any assignment, which is to say, not that you actually analyze in an introduction, but the process of analysis begins in an introduction, because what you have to do in an introduction is you have to tell your reader what it is that you are doing. If you want to know a little bit more about writing introductions and aim statements and thesis statements, as I'm talking about here, we've got a recording on writing introductions and conclusions. But for the purposes of this session, what I'm going to say is that in an introduction, as I said, you need to explain what it is to your reader that you're doing. And that can involve both these statements or just one. So an aim statement and a thesis statement. Now the two are slightly different, but they can overlap, they can interrelate. So an aim statement is the overarching but specific aim of the assignment. This tends to be a rewording of the title or a rewording of your project title. So if you're set an assignment title, it tends to be some sort of rewording of that. Notice I put overarching but specific, because it has to be specifically and achievable, which is to say it has to be something that you can actually do. So sometimes you see something that looks like an aim which says you're going to focus on this, but it actually has to be something that you're going to do, something you have to achieve. So we'll look at this example here on the right, which says that this paper considers the ways in which social media, namely Facebook, Twitter and YouTube, provoke civil unrest and galvanizes support for social causes, particularly focusing on the Black Lives Matter movement. So that's overarching in the sense that they could take that in various different ways and look at it from various different perspectives. But it's specific as well in the sense that they've given you the precise platforms they're going to look at. They've given you the precise case study or social movement that they're going to look at. So it is specific as well. And it's something that they can achieve. So it's achievable. So that's what an aim statement is. A thesis statement is slightly different. Sometimes there is overlap. Sometimes they're used interchangeably. But if you have an aim and a thesis statement, they should be different. Because the thesis statement is your argument. Thesis meaning the position that you adopt and that you're going to present and defend against. So what's your argument? That's the difference. Aim is the overarching but specific aim, whereas the thesis statement is the argument. It's a bit like the end of the movie at the beginning. It's what you're going to present come the end. And it's what positions you want to persuade your reader towards. Again, it's about making it specific, clear, and achievable. So again, make sure it's something you can achieve, because you actually have to reach the end of the assignment and the piece of writing and have persuaded your reader and convinced them that your argument is correct. So if we compare aim and thesis statement, we've looked at the aim there. This is the thesis statement from the same paper, so you'll see the difference. It says this paper argues that social media can empower ordinary citizens, but particularly when platforms are deployed in a strategic way that builds support through the interconnected nature of social media. So you can see it's clearly linked to the aim, but it's also a much more specific statement, and it's something that they're going to defend against. They're going to argue that case. Now, why are aim and thesis statements important in terms of analysis? The simple reason why is because your ability to achieve what you set out to achieve and your ability to get the highest marks that you can get rests on your ability to actually do what you say you're going to do. So the aim statement is what you set out to achieve. The thesis statement is the same. It's what you set out to achieve, but it's your argument. So with the thesis statement, for example, it's how convincing is your argument. So the process of analysis is triggered from this point on, because these are the signposting sentences that tell you that this is what you're going to do and this is what you can mark me against. And how well I achieve this will relate directly to how high my mark is. So this is why it's really, really important to get the aim and thesis statements correct. If you are writing in a sort of scientific context, you are less likely to have a thesis statement. You will have an aim statement, but you are less likely to have a thesis statement. Thesis statement is more of a sort of social sciences, humanities tradition, but there's no reason to say you can't have it in a scientific tradition, but it's more common in humanities and social sciences to have a thesis statement. And you would have an aim statement as well, although your thesis statement might combine to form the aim statement as well. So there's a bit of flexibility with this. From this point on, analysis is triggered because you've now said what you're going to do and what you're trying to argue. So that's very, very important, because everything now you do from this point has to tailor towards this aim and this thesis statement.